Okay, let's imagine you're at Daniel K. Inouye International Airport in Honolulu, Hawaii, and you take off in your plane and you travel in a straight line, and you keep on going on that straight line, and you're not changing the direction of your plane at all. You are just following that. Like, go from your perspective, you're just traveling in a straight line. You're not changing the direction of the plane. But by the time you reach South America, oh whoops, you'll be from the like just on a just going east, or just going east. By the time you reach South America, you're going at a sort of a downwards angle. If you were to travel just east, you would have to constantly be turning the plane left until you reach Mexico. But, oh, whoops, I messed it up. I'll have to put it all perfectly back in where it was. Whoops. Whoops. How do I get... Where was it? Was it... No, that's... No. What if I move it down some? Okay, there. There, I did it. Okay. So from your perspective, you start out going directly east, and then you sort of curve downwards. Well, no. Well, you don't... From your perspective, you're going in a straight line, but as you can see, you're curving downwards, but you're not actually curving, or well, you are, but your curve is the curvature of the Earth, and you're not telling your plane to go right. It just is, because that is a straight line. I mean, the equator is the equator, because that's like, the sun and the goes around the Earth, and so the equator is the most hot or whatever. It's and the North Pole and South Pole are the most cold. And so the opposite side of the Earth is Botswana from the opposite side of the Earth from Honolulu, Hawaii. And actually, there aren't actually that many places that are land on opposite sides of the Earth, because look how big the Atlantic Ocean is. It's pretty big. Now look how big the Pacific Ocean is. So I had to specifically find a place in the Pacific Ocean so that the opposite side of the Earth would be also land. So, but if you were in the United States and you dug down, you wouldn't reach China. Actually, let's see, what would you reach? Can I do that? You'd probably just be in the Indian Ocean or something. So you can't dig to China for other reasons too. Namely, if you tried to dig through the center of the Earth, that would get very hot very quickly. Now, so big problem is the drills when you're digging holes. We haven't actually got that deep into the Earth's surface. I don't know what it is like. If the Earth was the size of an apple, would we have dug down to about the size of a pea or something like that? Yeah, it's not really there's only a relatively thin layer of crust, and then inside the Earth is just molten heat or whatever, which is why there's a magnetic pole, I think. So if you try digging, obviously first thing you have to worry about is transporting all the rock or whatever you're digging through to the surface, because you can't, if you ever try digging with a shovel, you can't the dirt doesn't just disappear when you smack it with the shovel hard enough. You actually have to lift the dirt and move it somewhere else. So you have to somehow, when you're drilling, move the what you're drilling out of the way. And you also have to you also have to have something that's capable of withstanding the heat. It does get pretty hot at the surface of the earth. So that's. Did I say the surface of the earth? Oh wow. I wonder what's the opposite side of the earth to Madison, Wisconsin. Madison. And then how do we find the. No, that's not at all what I wanted to do. There. We just keep dragging it out in the direction it tells us to until it'll flip around there like that. So the opposite, if I were to dig through the earth, obviously that would be impossible and probably end up, tiring out. I would be somewhere in the South Indian Ocean. But what's this? French Southern Antarctic lands. I don't know if anyone lives there. I wonder what's not the opposite side of the earth to that. So probably maybe Canada. I wonder. So if there are people living at Antarctica and they're speaking French, and I don't know how many people in this part. This isn't Quebec, so I don't think people here would be speaking French. But if you think about it, it's possible. It's possible that there could be a French person at this side of the planet in Canada, because there are a bunch of French people in Canada, and there could be a French person here in the. What's the population of this? I don't know. It might just be some scientists. French Southern and Antarctic lands. What is? Okay, what else might have? Okay, what about New Zealand? What's the opposite side of the earth to New Zealand? Imagine if it were. New Zealand is pretty south, so it'll probably be north. Oh, that's. So you can just pull it in the opposite direction as to whatever it's pointing. See, when you see this, that's when you know. So, let's see. If I put this on Lugo, where's Lugo? Don't see a Lugo anywhere. Here's Lugo. So, the opposite side of the earth is whoops. Come on. It's just telling me what's there. Measure distance. I have to go all the way back to Lugo. Whoops. Measure distance. Keep on dragging it out. So is the opposite side of the earth to Lugo, New Zealand. It's getting close to New Zealand. Wow. Can you imagine if as opposed to being Galicia in New Zealand, imagine if it was this part of the Netherlands that was the opposite side of the earth to New Zealand? That would just be too good to be true. I wonder what is to this specific part of the Netherlands in Middelburg. just the ocean. Yeah, just the ocean. Although, though that is closer. That is pretty close. Zealand, I feel like Zealand and New Zealand, if any place on Earth is going to be the most distant place for it to have new in its name, that's. Okay, you have to. Zealand and New Zealand are almost at the opposite sides of the Earth. That would just be too perfect if it was true. That they actually were. Hmm. I mean, it's close enough that if you said that, you wouldn't be wrong. What's what about? I'm sure Old Guinea is far away from New Guinea. Is there any other place with new in its name? New York, not that far away from Old York. New Mexico, very close to Mexico. Can't think of any other place. Let's see, what about. Okay, what's the opposite of London? Let's see. Is it Australia? That was British colonizing Australia. It's probably just gonna be the ocean again. That is interesting how they're like, it's the, is that the time barrier? Oh, well, that would make a lot of sense for it to be the time barrier if you know that the time is based on what time it is in London, plus or minus however many hours, and that's. Okay. Now, what I should probably be doing is finding an island and seeing what's the opposite to that island, because that's the most likely way for both sides to be land. I'll make it Makassar. What's the opposite side of the Earth to Makassar? Maybe just the North Atlantic Ocean. I mean, what percentage of the Earth is covered by ocean? 80%, something like that. Like a lot. We take Guyana and Papua New Guinea. But I think, yeah, here's Guinea. So they're pretty far away, but they have a very similar distance to the equator, I guess you could say. No, there's a word for that. Latitude. What's the opposite to Bulgaria? Just the ocean. But obviously it's just gonna be the ocean. What? Oh, whoops! Not again. Okay, I'm not fooling around with getting that to work. That's the end.